Good afternoon and welcome to Hashtags, your quick guide. This is one of the free training courses that I run. My name is Andrew Knowles. I'm based in the UK. You can find me on various social media channels, typically at Andrew Explainer. Twitter is my go-to channel, but I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. Hashtag Andrew Explains is a hashtag that I often use on social media. And if you want to make a comment on social media and use my hashtag, you are very welcome to. Nobody owns a hashtag, and I'll be obviously going through that stuff in a bit more detail just as we get started. Why do I run free training courses like this? Because this is free, this is costing you nothing. As a result of it being free, a lot of people book, had over 20 people book. I'm suspecting less than half of that will actually turn up. That's the nature of free stuff. I've booked on free stuff in the past and then not attended. Because it's free, does it mean it's low value? I absolutely hope not. I love training small business owners. I want to equip you to be better at using digital marketing tools. And obviously on the back of that, I do also have paid offerings. I'll mention those briefly at the end. This is not mainly a sales pitch. This is a training course. So let's talk about getting going or getting growing with hashtags. And hashtags, they began on Twitter. They were adopted and made mainstream by Instagram because they became fundamental to search on Instagram. They're now being used by Facebook and by LinkedIn and by, I think they're experimenting with them on Pinterest, and they're on TikTok, and they've become a thing in culture, haven't they, hashtags? I want to give you an example of the power of hashtags. And what I'm going to talk about is something called Small Business Sunday. Now, you may have heard of this, in which case you'll understand what I'm talking about, but maybe you haven't. Small Business Sunday is a great example of the power of hashtags. Small Business Sunday was started a number of years ago by a British-based entrepreneur called Theo Paphitis. And you can find him on Twitter with that hashtag, handle. That's his handle. The handle starts with the @ the hashtag starts with the hash symbol. Hence the name. And he started this thing where every Sunday evening between 5:30 and 7:30 every week, he said to small business owners, get on Twitter and talk to me about your business. And every week I will pick 6 winners. I will pick 6 small businesses that will be a winner. What does being a winner of Small Business Sunday means? Well, it means you get to join a community of other small businesses who've also won. And Theo runs events for these businesses. There's a Facebook group. He obviously has a team. He's a successful businessman, and he has a whole team working for him. So he's not doing all of this on his own. But the winners of this competition get access to a whole host of resources. And I have to say, I've not been able to win this. I've tried a bit myself. I did win it on behalf of a client, but for myself, I'm not in this. But I do know that from a lot of other people who are part of this community, it is very, very valuable. It's opened up lots of opportunities to them and helped them to learn a lot more about many aspects of running a small business. And how does this community work? It works as a community of over 3,000 businesses now. It's been going for a few years, 6 every week. How does it work? It's all based around a hashtag. What Theo says is on Sunday evening, tweet to me, Theo Paphitis, use the hashtag SBS. And from all the businesses that use that hashtag, that tweet to him, he will pick 6 winners. And he's created a community out of this. And that to me is just one example of the power of hashtags. It's bringing people together because that's what hashtags do. I mean, what actually is a hashtag? There are 2 aspects to a hashtag. And I've taken to using Post-it notes as an example of this, because what is a Post-it note? So what is a Post-it note? So a Post-it note is, if I asked my wife this just now when I picked up the pad, I said to her, what is a Post-it note? And she said, well, it's a reminder. It's a note. And I said, no, it's not. A Post-it note is a little bit of paper with sticky glue on the back. That's all a Post-it note is. And a hashtag is the same. People say, well, a hashtag is a connector. A hashtag is a way of getting business. A hashtag is a way of building things. Yes, but actually a hashtag isn't. All a hashtag is, it's a series of letters preceded by a hash. And on the social media channels, they've set it up so that a hashtag on Twitter, you can click on the hashtag and it takes you into all the other tweets that use that same hashtag. a hashtag on Instagram. It's just it pulls together, it takes you to a place on Instagram where you can see all the other posts that use the same hashtag. The hashtag is just a little device. A post-it note is just a little piece of paper. It's how we use the post-it note that turns it into a reminder or a bookmark or a whatever it is. And likewise with the hashtag. A hashtag is a very simple piece of technology. It's just a clickable link on a tweet or on a Facebook post or on an Instagram post. It's how we choose to use that link that turns it into something much, much more powerful. So hashtags are a great way of connecting people together based upon a theme, let's say, or based upon, well, it's a connector. It's a great way of connecting people, as I've been saying. It's a great way of building community. Gave the example there of SBS, the Small Business Sunday hashtag. It's created a community of people who actually meet, from time to time. Once a year, they have a conference, an event post-COVID. I think actually the next one's coming up fairly soon. I'm guessing they didn't have one last year, maybe the last couple of years. But they're meeting in person, all based upon a relationship established by using a hashtag. A hashtag can also represent a campaign. There have been lots of campaigns, I'm sure you're aware of, on social media for a whole range of different issues, and they all use a hashtag. So the hashtag, like the post-it note, is just a thing. It's how we choose to use that thing that turns it into a theme, into a connector, into a community, and into a campaign. There's the simple hashtag, and then there's how we choose to use that hashtag that really unlocks power. And it is just a great way of connecting people, because you go on social media, you go on Twitter, and you think, I saw just today, I saw someone on Twitter, I'm on Twitter a lot, and someone on Twitter saying, I still don't really understand Twitter. I still don't know my way around. I'm still not really sure how to get anything from it. And hashtags are a great way of helping you to filter out the noise on Twitter, because Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and TikTok, they're all full of posts and there's so much noise. And how do you make sense of it? Well, hashtags are a fantastic way of doing that, because they help you to connect with people who have a like interest, people who have a common, part of a common community with you, people who might be interested in the things that you do. So that's what hashtags do. They help bring together people from the crowd and connect them. I think I've made that point by now. But I hope that helps you to understand how hashtags work. I've run a lot of training courses around Instagram and things like that, and people often say, I don't really understand how a hashtag works. Well, a hashtag is just that simple little connector. It's how we choose to use it that unlocks the power. So let's look at some examples or some information around hashtags. So on Instagram, you can have up to 30 hashtags per post. How many should you use? Well, just recently, just a month or so back, Instagram themselves suggested you should probably only use 3 or 4 hashtags on a post. But hang on, you let us use 30. Why are you now saying 3 or 4? Well, typically because when you're posting something on Instagram, there are going to be 3 or 4, a handful of hashtags that are really relevant to the post. And the rest of the hashtags people tend to use are they're just a bit random, frankly. You're posting something about a particular subject, and then you go broader than that. You start putting hashtags in that might be relevant rather than being super relevant. And so what Instagram is trying to encourage us to do is to just keep really, really relevant, because they want to filter out the spam effectively and the noise and the unnecessary hashtags. Now, all the research, and there's loads of businesses that are constantly researching this sort of thing. They're monitoring performance. There's social media marketing companies who run social media tools are often doing research on the effectiveness of these things. And certainly the research that I've seen most recently is saying, well, Instagram might say only use 4 or 5, but you're probably going to get more visibility if you use 10, 20 hashtags. Don't go to the full 30 is the typical recommendation, but certainly around about 10, 15, 20 is a reasonable number of hashtags to use on Instagram to get visibility. Which hashtags? Well, we'll talk a bit about that in a moment. Twitter, the recommendation from Twitter themselves is to only use 2 hashtags on a post. A tweet can only be 280 characters. So any more than that, and it does start to look cluttered. I still see people writing tweets where they hashtag almost every other word. And again, we'll talk a minute about the sorts of hashtags to choose. And hashtagging random words. I mean, I saw someone the other day talking about business video services, and they were hashtagging words like video, hashtag video. Well, hashtag video is meaningless really, because it could mean so many different things to so many different people. So avoid using really common terms. And certainly on Twitter, you don't want to spoil the look of a tweet. People say it's hard to read a tweet when it's full of hashtags. And also the Twitter algorithm is going to favor you less if you're using lots of hashtags. And we're still figuring out how to use Twitter as well. I'm running a session in a week or two's time about Twitter communities, and I also do a session on Twitter itself, just generally. So I will be providing free training around Twitter. Twitter is fantastic, but it can be tricky to get your head around. The hashtags are a great tool for that. LinkedIn. So the recommendation on LinkedIn from themselves is use 3 to 5 hashtags per post. And again, I've seen most people doing that. Hashtags, it's still relatively new to LinkedIn. So they're not being used in any way like the same quantity. It's really Instagram and Twitter, which are the real powerhouses for the use of hashtags. Facebook, I occasionally put hashtags on Facebook posts, but not always. It's even more recent than LinkedIn, really. There's a recommendation there from socialbakers.com to use 2 or 3. I don't know that there's actually a limit on the number of hashtags you can use on Facebook. But again, their effectiveness is questionable because it's just early days. People aren't in the habit of using hashtags on Facebook in the same way that they are on Instagram and on Twitter. So that's some thoughts around numbers of hashtags to use per channel. Let's say if you've got a question, please feel free to ask it in the comments. Something comes up as we go through. Also, just a reminder, if you haven't already, if you wanted to say hello to me on the comments, that lets me know that you'd like a link to the video, the recording of this. So let me know in the comments if you want a link to that. Just say hi or something, and I'll send a link out at the end of the session once it's uploaded to YouTube. This training is powered by Ko-fi. It's free, but you are very welcome. If you want to buy me a coffee, and as a way of saying thank you, you're welcome to go to ko-fi.com, Andrew Explainer. Okay, hashtags. So one way of looking at hashtags is there are lots of different categories for hashtags. So there are many different words. I mean, any word can be used as a hashtag, and in any acronym. Talked about Small Business Sunday earlier on, hashtag SBS. Nobody owns a hashtag. Theo Prophetus, I talked at the start about SBS, doesn't own that hashtag. Anyone can use SBS, and they can use it for any other purpose. And indeed, for a 3-letter acronym like that, I suspect lots of other people are using SBS to represent lots of other things other than Small Business Sunday. So you can't own a hashtag, and you can't stop other people from using it. So if you want to have a hashtag that's pretty much exclusive to you, then you've got to choose something that most people wouldn't naturally use. So for example, I use the hashtag Andrew Explains, and I use it on Instagram and on Twitter particularly. And other people do use the hashtag Andrew Explains, but to be honest, not very many of them do. You know, it's not unique to me, but it's not many other people are using it. But anyone can use a hashtag, and you just start using a hashtag. Nobody owns them. There's nowhere to go to create them. You just start using it. You type in the hash symbol and put the characters in. So different types of hashtags. So people might use hashtag to indicate geography. So I might be talking about doing business in Dorset. I live in Dorset, so I might use the Dorset as a hashtag. Or if you're business based in Wales, you might be using a hashtag that relates to that. So for example, made in Wales, hashtag made in Wales. Obviously Dorset's nowhere near Wales. Although bizarrely for a long time, Google Ads, not Google Ads, Facebook ads used to put Weymouth, where I live, in Wales. Let's not even go there. I think I've sorted that now. A hashtag might relate to an event. Again, I talked about Small Business Sunday, which is an event. It's an online gathering. So it might be an event that everybody recognizes in the calendar, or lots of people recognize, like Christmas. It could be an event like a conference that people are running. If you're organizing any sort of event, I highly recommend that you come up with a hashtag, maybe an acronym, maybe a combination of letters and numbers, the year or the month or something like that, and encourage people to use that hashtag when they're talking about the event, because that connects people. When I go to conferences, either in person or online, I will look up the hashtag in advance if the organizers have been planned ahead and set one. Again, other people can use different hashtags relating to the event, but if you as the organizer have said, this is the hashtag we encourage you to use, then what it starts to do is it starts to create a buzz, a conversation around that hashtag. You've got those people using that hashtag and they're connecting, and it helps people to find one another. Oh, who else is at this event? I'll do a search on the hashtag and I'll see who else is either here or who's talking about it, who's interested in it. It's a fantastic way of connecting from a networking point of view. And of course, finding potential customers, finding potential business partners, that sort of thing. Hashtags can relate to emotions. People can use hashtags to indicate their emotional state or their reaction to something. A hashtag might love your job or something like that. There's lots of different hashtags that have an emotional component. So when you're thinking about what hashtags to use on your posts, it's worth thinking geographically. Is there an event hashtag that's related to this? Is there an emotion hashtag that I can connect to? Because we all use and have different preferences for the sorts of hashtags that we all tend to engage with. Product related hashtags. So if you're talking about a product on social media, then it may be relevant to use a product hashtag. So hashtag refurbished phone or hashtag, whatever it is that is relevant to you. So I often use the hashtags around social media training and social media marketing and that sort of thing, because that's product related for me in the business that I work in. So there's a question there, aren't hashtags one of the ways to work the algorithm? So everything you put into a post on Twitter, so let's address that question. Everything you put into a post on Twitter or on Instagram is read by the algorithm. And hashtags, yes, can be one way of influencing the algorithm. The algorithm is the thing that decides what you get shown on Instagram or on Twitter. The posts are typically ranked by the algorithm rather than ranked chronologically. Which is the way that they used to be in the old days. And in fact, there's a bit of a move back to that. I understand that Instagram are experimenting with going back to a chronological news feed as well as a relevance news feed, which the algorithm sorts. And yes, if you use lots of the wrong hashtags over and over again, if you use lots of vague hashtags, or if you use the same hashtags over and over on every post, the general consensus is, and they don't tell us this specifically, but the general consensus is if you use the same hashtags over and over, exactly the same ones particularly, then the algorithm will actually rank you down for doing that. The reason why hashtags really work well in the algorithm, if you're choosing good hashtags, is if you choose the right hashtags, good hashtags that get you visible to people who are actually interested in what you're talking about, those people will not only see your post, but they are more likely to like your post, and they're more likely to comment on your post, and they're more likely to share your post and save your post. And it's those signals, likes, comments, shares, that the algorithm is looking for. Because if 10 people like your post, and usually you get 3 people liking your post, and that says to the algorithm, oh, this post is better than the others, it's engaging with more people. So that's really how the algorithm plays into the hashtag plays into the algorithm, because the hashtag, good hashtags, gets your post in front of more people, and that those people, because they're more likely to engage with it, because they're a relevant audience, that sends signals to the algorithm that says, oh right, this post will rank better. So yes, the hashtags do make a difference in the algorithm, but that's really how it works. It's by getting visibility in front of the right people. So other types of hashtag, you want sort of going through different types of hashtag, different categories of hashtag, if you like here. So another one might be around interests, what people are actually interested in. So again, a hashtag I often use because I work in the small business world is hashtag UK small biz. So that indicates that, that I'm interested in that sort of thing. And lots of the other people who are using that same hashtag are also interested in small businesses. And brand is another hashtag, and I talked about Andrew Explains, so that's a hashtag that I've started using. There's the SBS hashtag. Obviously, there are big brands like Nike and McDonald's, and people use, those are hashtags that are commonly used. Not all of the feedback is positive on those, as you can might imagine with the big brands. In fact, big brands can sometimes come a cropper because they choose a hashtag which actually encourages people to send in less than positive comments. And there have been stories like that in the past. It's worth thinking that for your own business, even if you're the only person that's using it right now, is there a brand hashtag that you can adopt? Because if you use it consistently over and over again, and if you can start encouraging your customers to use it, put it on your business material, put it on your emails, put it on your packaging, make it visible in whatever business that you're running. Over time, other people, if you're consistent and keep at it, other people will start using your brand hashtag when they talk about your business. And of course, that will help to build visibility of your business and connection. So it's worth thinking, should I have a brand hashtag? And I would encourage you to do that. Just do a search and make sure it's not something that's being used by lots of other people, because otherwise your use of it will just get lost in the noise. The real power of hashtags, as I said, is as a connector. And I talked about SBS, and hashtag communities are very much alive and well, and they're very much a thing. And they're very active on Twitter. Twitter's a fantastic place for these hashtag communities. But one of my daughters, she makes handmade clothes, and she's really got into a community of people who make and share and buy and sell clothing, handmade clothing, and on Instagram. And she's done that through hashtags. She just started to use hashtags or searching on hashtags relating to that subject. She connected with other people who were using those hashtags. They started to have conversations. She started repping for some of them. She now makes her own clothes. And so there's a whole community of small business owners around that particular subject on Instagram, not on Twitter. And I'm sure there's lots of other small business communities around similar things also on Instagram. And a lot of these examples I think we'll be using will be on Twitter, because that's where they're really powerful as well. Some of them might be time specific. So there's a community called 11's Hour, and 11's Hour is a hashtag community where basically somebody said, I mean, nobody owns these things, remember, no one owns a hashtag. Someone decided years ago, 11's Hour has been running for years, I'm going to start posting using the hashtag 11's Hour at 11 a.m. UK time, Monday to Friday, and I'll start engaging people in conversations. And that's grown and grown and grown. And now every Monday across the UK, and indeed further afield, small business owners dial in to, they get onto Twitter, and they do a search on the hashtag 11's Hour, or they start posting using hashtag 11's Hour, and then they do a search and they see what other people are saying, and they get into conversations. They build community, and obviously building community, they also start following one another. So again, these communities are a great way of connecting with people, and they're also a great way of growing your following. You don't want followers who are just random followers. It's very easy to get random followers on social media. You just wait there long enough. I've got some training accounts that I use. I just use them for random training stuff from time to time. They're entirely pointless for anyone other than me, but they've still got quite a lot of followers, because that's what happens on social media. People follow you, but it's random. What you want is people who are actually relevant to you, particularly, the sort of people that you might be looking to sell to or buy from or connect with in relation to what you do. So some hashtag hours are, say, time related. Some are geographical. So Hampshire Hour is a good example. Now I live in Dorset. I don't mention Dorset Hour, but hashtag, because Hampshire Hour is much more active. Dorset Hour, unfortunately, has become very quiet. It happens at a particular time. So again, someone's decided we're going to meet together at this time. It creates a virtual meeting on Twitter. Of course, you can use those hashtags at any other times. But when someone says use it at this particular time, then you can be certain that there's more businesses engaged online at that point. Just a question here. Is it more effective if the brand hashtag is shorter? Ours is really long. It's the family name and then 2 other words of education and supplies. Yes, it's better if it's shorter, but obviously you want it to be you want it to be ideally unique to you. So there's a trade-off there, isn't it? So that's a choice you have to make. So yes, shorter is better, but obviously with predictive text and that sort of thing, people start typing a hashtag and typically the predictive text will fill it in for them. So length is less of an issue. You might want to come up with 2 hashtags, brand hashtags. You might want to come up with a brand hashtag that relates to your business. So let's take me for an example. So I might decide I want to use the hashtag Andrew Knowles because that's my name. And if you like, that's the name of my business. But I'm also using another hashtag, Andrew Explains, which sort of says something about what I do. So you might want to think of 2 hashtags, one which is related to your name of your business and one which is more about what you do or the difference that you make or something like that. There's a coffee company in Dorset and that uses the hashtag KYCU. And they now lots of other people also use the hashtag KYCU. It stands for Keep Your Chin Up. It's not the name of the business, it's Keep Your Chin Up. And they just use that over and over again. They use the phrase Keep Your Chin Up. They use the hashtag KYCU. They even have branded merchandise. You can buy a baseball cap and badges, things that say hashtag KYCU, and their customers share pictures. And they talk of their coffee and things like that, and they use the hashtag KYCU to indicate their connection with the company, because that particular coffee company, Jimmy's Iced Coffee, it's called, if you want to look them up, hashtag KYCU, particularly on Instagram. They've pretty much come off Twitter, I understand. But that's an example of a brand where the hashtag doesn't relate to the name of the business at all, and they've just chosen a 4-letter acronym. So you might want to think about that as the answer to your question. It's Jimmy's Coffee. Yes, I've just seen that in the comments. Absolutely, Jimmy's Iced Coffee. Okay, so other hashtag communities. So some hashtag communities are untimed, which basically means that they just run all the time. And somebody said, tweet on this hashtag, and and other people use the same hashtag to share something around the same theme. Now, the photo hour. Now, bizarrely, the hashtag actually has the word hour in it, but there isn't an hour. There is no particular time for the photo hour. It just rolls on and on and on. I haven't looked into it for a while, but when I last looked at the photo hour, and there's often a Twitter account associated with this, with a hashtag like this. So, with, for example, Hampshire Hour, there's a Twitter account called Hampshire Hour, but there doesn't need to be a Twitter account that uses the same name. But the photo hour, the person who set that up, basically every day they were setting a theme. They were saying, today, let's have photos of, I don't know, let's have photos of families, let's have photos of the weather, let's have photos of fish. And does everybody follow that instruction? No, but and they're encouraging small businesses, photographers, that sort of thing, to share photos, and they do. And again, it's a networking opportunity. It allows people to come together and see who else is sharing pictures, and then that creates following and comments and interest. So it's community building. Excuse me, finishing off my cold tea as I talk to you. Other hashtag communities are around interest. So a lot of people use the hashtag #AmWriting. Now, a lot of those people who use the hashtag #AmWriting are writing something, and typically they are authors, or they're people in the writing space. So they're I think it's mainly authors and people who are doing that sort of thing. So either they're writing for a hobby, maybe they're writing poetry, or they're they're writing books, and it may be fiction or non-fiction. But #writing, and if you want to see who else is in that community of writers, you just start using the hashtag, or just do a search on the hashtag #writing, and you'll see lots of people talking about what they're writing about. Is there spam in all of these communities? Are there people who are trying to jump in and promote their product, which has nothing to do with the community? Absolutely, that happens. And in the past, some of these hours, I've been part of an online Twitter hour, and it's been suddenly hit by a load of really quite unpleasant spam, where people are just trying to jump in on the back of a hashtag. That stuff has been clamped down on seriously by Twitter. I don't see that very much anymore. So but you still get a few people who jump on a hashtag because they are, that they think, oh, I can use this hashtag to promote my product. Remember, it's called social media for a reason. when you're posting on social media, it's not just about putting a post out there, using a hashtag and thinking, this will grow my business. Spend time, engage with other people using the same hashtag, talk to them, respond to their posts, comment, share. That's why, you know, it's called social media for a reason. It's about engaging with people. And another example of a hashtag community is brand hashtag. And some of you, again, may be familiar with this one. So this is another, this is a long acronym. Because it's very specific, I don't suppose anybody else uses it. It's MHHSBD. It stands for My Helpful Hints Small Business Directory. And there's a whole community of now about 300 businesses, I understand, who are part, I'm part of this community right now as well. And they share one another's content and they encourage one another. If someone's got, you know, I've seen people with questions and comments. It's all public on Twitter. People are putting stuff out there saying, help, I've got this particular problem, hashtag MHHSBD. And because it's the hashtag for the community, they're more likely to get a response from somebody who's in the community coming back to them and saying, I can help you with that, or I know someone who can help you with that. So it's all public, but there's a community there happening even in that public space. Now, MHHSBD is a slightly unusual hashtag because it's a paid for community. Now, as I said, nobody owns a hashtag and nobody can stop you from using a hashtag. But MHHSBD, I have to say from experience, do police this hashtag. So if you start using it, you know, and you're not part of the community, some people will notice and they'll start saying, we really would prefer you not to use this hashtag unless you're part of our paid for community. Now, they can't stop you using the hashtag. There's nothing that can stop you from, you know, they can't prevent it. But there is a strong preference in that case that people join. It's a very low cost. I think it's £10 a year to join the community at the minute. So it's next to nothing to join. And it's a great community of small businesses. So I'm part of it, but I'm not promoting it in any way. I'm not part of the organization. So those are examples of hashtag communities. So let's talk about a strategy for using hashtags. And I'm going to use Instagram for this particular example. And this strategy isn't original to me. It's come from Social Media Examiner. I highly recommend Social Media Examiner as a great resource for training material and learning and keeping up with what's happening. And they have a number of experts who write for them. One of them wrote this Instagram strategy some time back. And this was their suggestion. I've seen other people using different approaches around the same thing. Their suggestion was to choose a hashtag or 4 or 5 hashtags that are very popular. So when you're putting a post on Instagram, choose 4 or 5 hashtags that are very popular. Now, when you search for hashtags on Instagram, it tells you how often those hashtags have been used. It doesn't tell you that on Twitter, so Twitter's not so useful for that. But it does on Instagram. And you'll see that some hashtags like London and like Christmas and stuff like that have been used millions and millions and millions of times. And the general consensus is there is little point using the really, really popular hashtags because your post will get lost in the noise. So aim for hashtags that are a little bit more exclusive. So you might want to use 4 or 5 hashtags. Remember those different categories I talked about earlier on, you know, product and geography and emotion. So think of it. So you take those categories and say, well, I'm going to pick some hashtags that relate to those categories. And I'm going to look at how popular they are. And obviously you want to consider how relevant they are to your business. And ideally choose 4 to 5 that are, yeah, in the very popular category. So they've been used maybe 300,000 to 1 million times. And then choose 4 or 5 hashtags that are moderately popular. So they've been used maybe 80,000 to 300,000 times. These aren't absolute figures, but it's just a guide. And then maybe use 4 or 5 really niche hashtags. And niche hashtags are those that have been used maybe, you know, less than 80,000. Anything that's been used less than 10, 20,000 times is super niche. And if you're using a brand hashtag, which is the last couple in this particular strategy, then particularly if it's a brand hashtag that you created or that you've adopted effectively, then there may literally be only a few hundred uses or even less than that. But niche hashtags, typically they've been used, you know, 20, 30,000 times. So it's worth having a strategy and saying, I'm going to use these particular hashtags on my post, but don't use the same hashtags on every post on Instagram. Mix it up. And there's various reasons for mixing it up. One is because the algorithm doesn't like it if you're using the same hashtags over and over. The other is you're going to get different results with different hashtags, because the question is, well, I've got this hashtag strategy, but how do I know it's working for me? And there isn't an easy answer to the question, how do I know it's working? There are some analytics. I'll have a quick peek at those in just a moment. But one of the ways to intuitively work it out, or you can be really scientific about it if you like, is to use different combinations of hashtags and say, well, I'm going to compare the results of this combination with this combination, and I'm going to see whether there's a difference. And you can see that there's a difference. And you may be able to identify that there are certain hashtags that are working really well for you and others that aren't. Now, there are third-party tools. There are lots of third-party systems that you have to pay for, which will give you much more specific information about hashtags that are working for you. I'm not talking about those. I'm not covering those. And I know for a lot of small businesses, you want to be doing stuff that you don't have to pay for. You can get free trials of some of these things. It might be worth Googling it and having a look and looking at some free trials. It may be for your business, it is worth paying, because it's not necessarily massively expensive, but it may be worth paying to use one of these tools to manage your hashtags. It depends how important it is to you. In terms of researching hashtags, how do I know which hashtags to use? So you've got a product, you think about, well, how do I choose which hashtags to use? Obviously, there's certain words that you will just consider relevant. So let's say that you're trying to sell this mug, so that you might want to use, well, hashtag mug and hashtag coffee cup and hashtag things like that. Something else that I haven't actually put this in the slides, and I ought to, is that some hashtags on Instagram are referred to as banned hashtags, as in the algorithm doesn't like them. They're restricted in some way. Unfortunately, Instagram doesn't really tell you which hashtags are banned. Now you can go again, you can Google which hashtags are banned. That's B-A-N-N-E-D, banned, just to be clear about that. Which hashtags are banned on Instagram, and there are places that will tell you. But another quick way to find out is if you go onto Instagram and do a search on a particular hashtag, you'll come up and it will show you which hashtags are the most recent for that, which images are the most recent for that hashtag and which are the top. Well, if you look at it on your phone, it may well, or on a mobile device, there may well be a warning at the top telling you this hashtag is being restricted. The use is restricted because it's been abused in the past. If you look on it on a desktop computer, you can also do these searches on a desktop, then you won't necessarily get that message, but you won't see the most recent posts. The clue is the most recent posts are not visible. All you'll see is the top posts. And what sort of things get banned on Instagram? Well, there's all the fairly obvious phrases and words that you can think of that are very spammy that get banned. But actually, you'd be surprised. Things like desk, hashtag desk. Do a search on hashtag desk on Instagram, hashtag D-E-S-K, and you'll find that you can see the top posts, but you can't see the most recent posts. For whatever reason, the word desk has become a banned hashtag on Instagram. So it's worth looking at the hashtags that you've chosen to use and just making sure they're not falling into that category of banned, because again, the algorithm won't favor you if you consistently use hashtags that are, for whatever reason, have become unwelcome on Instagram. So researching hashtags, the great ways of researching hashtags, look at what your competitors are doing. Now, your competitors might be doing an absolutely excellent job of getting traffic on their social media posts. They may also be doing a really bad job of it. So just because your competitors are using a hashtag doesn't mean it's actually working for them. You know, look at the levels of engagement they're getting. You know, if you can be bothered, look at their, follow them over time and look at the growth in their account. Are they getting new followers? Is the level of engagement on their posts going up? If it is, that's a clue that they're doing something right. Doesn't mean that they're choosing the right hashtags necessarily, because there are other things they might be doing that could be making a difference. Remember, there's much more to just hashtags to getting results on social media. But look at what your competitors are using. That's a clue. Look at what industry leaders, other people, the big voices in your space, what sort of thing, the people who've got accounts with tens and hundreds of thousands of followers, what hashtags are they using? They're more likely to be a guide to what's good to choose. Also think about related hashtags. So, talking about hashtags for a coffee cup or a mug. Well, hashtag mug, hashtag coffee cup. But what's related? Well, what do you do with a coffee cup or a cup? You often use it when you're taking a break. So maybe hashtag break time, hashtag having a break. There's a whole load of stuff that's related to your product that isn't actually what your product is. So think about related hashtags. And again, your competitors and the industry leaders and other people using the obvious hashtags will give you a clue. There are, as I said, third-party tools out there you can use to research hashtags. Hashtagify Me, that's one way there's a limited amount of free information, but I have to say that the amount of information you can get from Hashtagify Me is less and less these days. I've got a search screen coming up, which comes from Hashtagify Me, but it's pretty limited as to the amount of information you can get from them, but at least it's a starting point. So here we are. So this is the screen from Hashtagify Me. So I did a search using the hashtag SmallBizUK, and these were what it considered to be the top hashtags relating to Small Biz UK at that particular point in time. So Yorkshire features there, and Etsy, and AT social media, whatever AT social media is. So not all of the hashtags that it throws up are necessarily useful. You've got to go and say, well, what does AT social media mean? Is it, who's using it right now, and is it relevant to me? So it could give you some ideas, but it could also take you down some blind alleys. So beware of that. If you're serious about using hashtags and you want to get results, you will need to invest time in researching them. So how do you know if a hashtag's working for you? This is an example of analytics from Instagram. And on every post on Instagram, you get the option to view insights, post insights. If your Instagram account has been set up to be a business account. If you haven't set it up as a business account or professional account, Google how to do that and change your account. It doesn't create any issues for your account. In fact, it gives you more options and it gives you analytics. And analytics like this are really useful because what this says, I don't know whether you can see the slide, but this says that this particular post it's reached 1,500 different accounts. And of those, 191 of those accounts have been reached by hashtags. So what that says is that this post, 191 people who saw this post came to it via the hashtags. They're not following the account that this particular post was put out on. What does 191 out of 1,518 mean? Well, it doesn't really mean anything out of context. What you want to do is say, well, how are my posts performing day to day? Is the visibility from hashtags going up or down? If I use a different combination of hashtags, does that suddenly boost the numbers? So again, it's about experimenting. It's about being analytical. It's about saying, I'll do different things. I will try different things. Can I get different results? Reminder, we're coming to the end here, so this is a large chance really. If you've got a question, bung it into the comments. And again, if you haven't already said so that you'd like a copy, you would like me to send you the link to the video that goes on YouTube, then please, again, just say hello or something in the comments and let me know. Okay, so other places where you can use hashtags. You can obviously put hashtags into posts on Instagram and Twitter. You can also put them into your bio. It's worth thinking, are there one or two relevant hashtags I can use in my bio, particularly if you've got a brand hashtag. I wouldn't just put random hashtags in your bio. The bio on all the social media platforms is short. Make good use of that space. You can put hashtags into comments on Instagram. And I know there's a school of thought that says, actually, you should put your hashtags in comments and not on the post itself. Well, again, all the research I've seen from social media companies says that doesn't really make a difference. And in fact, it probably lowers the reach of your post slightly. So the general advice is put the hashtags in the body of the post, in the caption. But certainly on Instagram, you put them as a separate block. You don't want to mix the hashtags in with the main text that the humans read. The hashtags aren't really there for people to read. They're there for the system to read for search purposes. You can put hashtags into stories on Instagram and Facebook, and they have a limited value there. You can choose to follow hashtags on Instagram, on LinkedIn. You can't follow a hashtag on Twitter. You can do a search on a hashtag on Twitter. You can do a search on a hashtag on Instagram. But on Instagram, you can also choose to follow a hashtag, which means that if you choose to follow a hashtag, you may from time to time see posts in your newsfeed from people who you're not choosing to follow, but they're coming into your newsfeed because of the hashtag that you're choosing to follow. And likewise, your posts could well appear in somebody else's newsfeed because of the hashtag they're choosing to follow. Getting to the end, so success with hashtags. The start of success with hashtags is fundamentally about using great content. You could have fantastic hashtag research. You could spend hours analyzing exactly which hashtags are going to work really well for you based upon your posts, but nothing beats great content. It's the content that's really going to make a difference, because it's the content that people engage with, the pictures that you use, the videos that you use, the words that you use, the messages you're putting out to people, whether you're connected with your target audience. So great content. I mean, I read an article just a while back from somebody who was talking about their hashtag strategy, and they had some great statistics from their hashtags. And then at the end, they said, and of course, one of the reasons why my posts got great visibility was because I had done something unique. And so they had done something outstanding, and that outstanding thing also made their posts more visible. Well, to what extent was it the hashtags then? And to what extent was the fact that what they were doing was pretty much unique in their industry at that particular point in time? So other elements about hashtags: choose well. I've talked already about research and analysis. If you just bung a few hashtags down in a rush because you can't be bothered to think about it, don't expect great results. Take time. Be consistent. Consistency is important. Show up and be active and engage with other people. If you want to really get visible for a certain hashtag, look at the other posts from people using those hashtags. Make comments. Yeah, liking your post is fine, but it's minor visibility, really. What you really want to do is get into conversation with people and start making comments. So you see other people's posts and make the comments meaningful rather than just nice post or I like this. And you see that sort of thing. They're spam comments, really. What you want to do is put comments out there that say, oh, I like this because, or I can really connect with that. Or even ask a question in the comments, and people will often respond to you. Get into conversations. It's social media. It will, over time, make a difference. And have a plan for what happens next. Putting great hashtags on your Instagram or feed, or choosing good hashtag communities on Twitter, and putting great content out there isn't going to get people pushing the buy now button. It isn't going to get people messaging you and saying, can I talk to you about the service you offer? Think about the other steps in the process. People go on a journey. There's a thing called a customer journey that people go on. And hashtags will help boost your visibility. But think about, where do I send people next? Now that they're following me, do I have made it really easy for them to go to the next step and to become a customer of mine? Now, that's really beyond the scope of this particular session. This session is very much about hashtags, but I also run sessions on customer journey and things like that. So you're very welcome to tune into those. I've got a mailing list. If you want to see the workshops that are coming up, training sessions that are coming up in the future, then please sign up to my mailing list. There's a link on my website. You can do that, andrewknowles.co.uk. So I hope that's been useful. I hope that's given you some insight into using hashtags. I've got one more question here. Just check one more question. Really helpful session. Thank you. Great. Thank you. Glad it's helpful. What exactly attracts bots on Instagram? We've noticed that bots flock to our posts as soon as they're posted. Is it something to do with the hashtags that we are using? Again, there's no easy answer to that, but quite probably it's going to be hashtags, because Instagram, unlike Twitter, you can search on any single word or multiple words on Twitter and tweets will come up. Instagram, the search is still very much driven by hashtags. So people will find you typically because of hashtags. So there is a difference there. So it probably is the hashtags they're using. So thank you again for being part of today's session. As I said, hope it's useful. You're always welcome to message me on any of the social channels. If you've got questions, I will endeavor to answer them. And obviously, as I said, I'm running more training sessions like this in the future. I'm typically running one most weeks. You go to my website and you'll find a list of what's there. Off the top of my head, I can't actually remember what I'm doing next week. I should have looked, shouldn't I? Never mind. But I'm doing one on blogging shortly. I'm doing one on Twitter communities. I think it's Twitter communities next week. And I said I've got other ones that will be coming up. So thank you again very much for being here, for listening, for asking questions, signing off. Thanks again. Yeah, it's a pleasure. And yeah, I will send. I'll be sending out to all of those of you who commented. I'll be sending in some way. I'll be sending out a link to the YouTube video to the session, so you can rewatch it. And if there's anything you want to recover, cover again, look at it again, share it with other people. You're very welcome to. So thank you very much for your time.